What if everything you think you know about CMG after Young Dolph is only half the story? From the outside, the label looks unstoppable, chart-topping records, sold-out tours, and a new star in Glorilla shining brighter than ever. But behind the music, behind the Instagram posts and award show smiles, a different question keeps echoing through Memphis and the industry at large. Is CMG truly stronger, or quietly more divided than ever before? Young Dolph's name still hangs heavy over the city. Even after his passing, his legacy refuses to stay silent. For some, Dolph represents independence, resistance, and a refusal to bow to industry power. For others, he's the ghost that CMG can never outrun, a reminder of old tensions, unresolved beefs, and wounds that time hasn't healed. And no matter how far Yo Gotti pushes the brand forward, no matter how many hits CMG racks up, Dolph's shadow keeps finding its way back into the conversation. Then there's Glorilla, the breakout star, the new face, the energy CMG desperately needed at the perfect moment. Her rise feels almost cinematic. Raw talent, viral moments, and a cosign that changed her life overnight. To fans, she's proof that CMG is evolving, adapting, and winning. But to critics and insiders, her success also raises uncomfortable questions. Is her rise a symbol of unity, or a strategic distraction from fractures no one wants to address? At the center of it all stands Yo Gotti, the boss, the architect, the man balancing loyalty, business, and survival in an industry that never forgets. Some say he rebuilt CMG into a fortress. Others whisper that the foundation was poured over cracks that never fully closed. Because when empires grow fast, they don't just gain power, they collect pressure. So tonight, we're pulling back the curtain. This isn't just about music. It's about legacy versus ambition, silence versus truth, and whether CMG's future is being built on unity or held together by tension no one dares to name. The story of CMG after Young Dolph's death doesn't start with champagne bottles or sold-out shows. It starts with a silence that shook Memphis to its core. The city still remembers the night the news broke. The streets were quieter than usual, radio stations played tributes non-stop, and even the most hardened insiders felt the weight of loss. Young Dolph wasn't just an artist. He was a symbol of independence, someone who refused to be controlled, and someone whose story resonated far beyond Memphis. His absence left a vacuum that no one could have predicted, and that vacuum changed the dynamics at CMG forever. Yo Gotti, the head of CMG, found himself in uncharted territory. For years, the label had operated with a delicate balance: loyalty to artists, strategic partnerships, and a reputation built on both street credibility and industry respect. But Dolph's passing wasn't just a personal blow, it was a business one. Dolph had been the anchor of CMG in the streets, the figure whose presence commanded respect and whose influence attracted talent. Without him, the label had to ask itself a difficult question. Could CMG survive, let alone thrive, without him? And survive it did, but not without whispers. In studios, on the corners, and on social media, rumors began to swirl. Some insiders claimed CMG was stronger than ever, using Dolph's absence as a rallying point to tighten the crew. Others whispered of tension behind the scenes, unspoken resentments, questions of loyalty, and debates over the direction of the label. These weren't just rumors, they were the subtle cracks that form when empires shift. Even the most loyal supporters of CMG couldn't ignore the feeling that the label had changed in ways that weren't entirely visible on the surface. Enter Glorilla, a force that seemed to arrive at the perfect moment. She wasn't just a rising star, she was a phenomenon. Viral tracks, unstoppable energy, and a style that couldn't be ignored made her the face of a new CMG era. But her sudden rise also introduced new dynamics. Yo Gotti, known for his keen business instincts, seemed to recognize her potential immediately, positioning her as a bridge between the legacy of the past and the promise of the future. For fans, this was thrilling, a continuation of the CMG story, now with fresh energy. For insiders, it was more complicated. Questions arose. Was Glorilla a unifying force, or was her spotlight masking unresolved tensions? Was the label genuinely evolving, or was it trying to rewrite its narrative after a loss that still lingered heavily in the streets? Even as CMG celebrated chart-topping hits, the echoes of Young Dolph's influence were impossible to ignore. He had represented more than music. He embodied a set of values, independence, respect, and authenticity, that couldn't simply be replaced. Yo Gotti's challenge was not just to continue CMG's commercial success, but to manage the delicate emotional terrain left behind. Loyalty to Dolph's memory had to coexist with the ambition to grow, and that balance was far from simple. Behind the scenes, the label's meetings took on a different tone. Strategic decisions were weighed not only for profitability but for optics and legacy. Partnerships, artist signings, and public appearances were scrutinized under the unspoken question: how does CMG honor its past while building its future? Every move carried double weight, a tribute to the late Dolph, and a message to the world that CMG was still a powerhouse. Social media became its own battleground. Fans loyal to Young Dolph weren't shy about expressing skepticism. Every new CMG project, every viral Glorilla track, every Yo Gotti statement was dissected for hidden meanings. Supporters celebrated the label's resilience. Critics saw opportunism. The line between tribute and strategy blurred, and CMG found itself navigating a narrative as complex as its own roster. In the streets, the ripple effects were even more personal. Young Dolph had connections that ran deep. He had inspired countless artists and commanded respect that extended beyond music. With his absence, CMG faced both admiration and scrutiny. Who would rise? Who would fall? And, most importantly, could the label maintain the loyalty that had always been its backbone? The answer wasn't simple, and the tension was palpable. As Glorilla's tracks climbed the charts and Yo Gotti solidified his presence as both mentor and mogul, CMG's public image appeared untouchable. But behind that polished surface, the legacy of Young Dolph lingered like a shadow, a reminder that strength in business doesn't always equate to unity in spirit. And as the next generation of CMG artists looked to carve their path, they would inherit not just a label, but a story full of triumph, loss, and the subtle fractures that history can leave behind. The question that lingered for everyone watching closely was simple but heavy. Was CMG truly stronger after Young Dolph, or was it a giant holding itself together while quietly divided? This tension would shape the next chapter of Memphis music, a chapter that was just beginning, and one that no one could afford to ignore. The rise of Glorilla was more than just a viral moment. It was a seismic shift in CMG's narrative. Overnight, she went from a promising local artist to a face that defined the label's future. But the way her ascent intertwined with the shadow of Young Dolph sparked conversations that few dared to say out loud. For years, Dolph had been CMG's moral compass in the streets, the standard of authenticity that defined the label. And now, Glorilla's star power challenged not just the industry, but the very culture of loyalty that had been the foundation of CMG. Glorilla's early releases were electric. Tracks like FNF resonated far beyond Memphis, earning millions of streams and grabbing the attention of national media. Social media blew up with fans calling her the Queen of Memphis and praising her ability to carry the torch for CMG's next generation. But alongside the praise came whispers. Some longtime supporters of the label worried that the spotlight on Glorilla could overshadow the memory of Young Dolph. They wondered if the label's priorities had shifted too quickly, if the strategy behind her rise was purely commercial, and whether Dolph's influence was being quietly sidelined in favor of new marketable talent. Yo Gotti, however, was strategic. Known for his business acumen, he recognized that Glorilla's energy could be leveraged not just for streaming numbers, but to cement CMG's dominance in the current era. He positioned her in collaborations, media appearances, and high-profile campaigns that elevated her profile while keeping CMG at the center of the conversation. It was a calculated move, blending the excitement of the new with the respect for the past. Yet, as with all high-stakes strategies, there was a risk. In a culture that deeply revered loyalty, how much change could fans accept without questioning the label's integrity? Insiders hinted that behind closed doors, the rise of Glorilla stirred tension within CMG itself. The label had always been a mix of street veterans and new talent, a delicate ecosystem where respect and hierarchy mattered as much as talent and revenue. Some artists and associates reportedly questioned whether Glorilla's fast-track success was earned through the same grind and struggle that had defined Dolph's legacy. Others worried that her meteoric rise could shift internal power dynamics, creating factions where there had once been unity. These whispers weren't public, but in Memphis, word travels fast, and soon enough, the chatter started spilling into social media, interviews, and even rival label commentary. Fans, naturally, picked up on every nuance. Social media became a place of debate. Was Glorilla a bridge between the old CMG guard and a new era, or was her spotlight an attempt to overshadow the lingering presence of Young Dolph's legacy? Memes, fan edits, and heated comment sections highlighted the tension between admiration for the new star and reverence for the late rapper. Every post, every interview, and every release became a measure of whether CMG could balance respect for its past with ambition for its future. Yo Gotti's leadership during this period was crucial. He had always been a master of perception, understanding that controlling the narrative was as important as controlling the business. Glorilla's rise was framed publicly as a continuation of CMG's legacy, a torchbearer of the label's values and vision. Private strategy sessions, however, focused on the delicate task of managing loyalty, mitigating internal jealousy, and ensuring that Dolph's legacy was honored while still pushing the label forward. It was a balancing act that required more than just management skills. It demanded intuition, influence, and an acute awareness of the street's unspoken rules. Meanwhile, media outlets and gossip pages amplified the story, drawing attention to potential conflicts. Rumors of internal friction, debates over spotlight allocation, and speculation about who held influence behind the scenes fueled narratives that often blurred fact and opinion. For CMG, this was both a challenge and an opportunity. The chatter kept the label relevant and in the conversation, but it also risked painting a picture of division that might destabilize perception if left unchecked. Despite the external noise, the music kept speaking for itself. Glorilla's collaborations with Yo Gotti, as well as solo projects, continued to climb charts and dominate streaming platforms. Her energy, authenticity, and connection with fans created a momentum that was hard to ignore. Yet, the question persisted. Was CMG stronger because of this new star, or were the cracks beneath the surface simply more polished than before? The tension between legacy and ambition defined this period for CMG. Young Dolph's influence lingered like an invisible presence, a benchmark for loyalty, authenticity, and street credibility. Glorilla's rise brought vitality and national attention, but also an undercurrent of uncertainty. Within CMG, there was a silent reckoning happening. How to grow, how to win, and how to honor the past without letting it become a cage. As fans and insiders watched, CMG's next moves would reveal the truth. Could the label unite its roster, fans, and business under a shared vision, or would ambition, fame, and the shadows of the past create fractures that couldn't be repaired? One thing was clear. The story of CMG after Young Dolph was far from over, and every decision made in this era would ripple across Memphis and beyond for years to come. Yo Gotti has always been more than just a rapper. He's a businessman, a strategist, and the glue that has held CMG together through highs and lows. But the aftermath of Young Dolph's death tested him in ways no chart position or sold-out show could. Suddenly, he was not just a label head but a custodian of legacy, tasked with preserving the essence of CMG while steering it into uncharted territory. Every decision he made, from artist promotion to public appearances, was scrutinized, dissected, and debated by fans, insiders, and rival labels alike. In many ways, the weight of Young Dolph's shadow forced Gotti to redefine what leadership meant. Dolph had commanded respect naturally. His presence alone could settle disputes, validate new talent, and set the tone for the streets. Yo Gotti had to step into that space without overstepping or diminishing what Dolph represented. It wasn't just a business challenge, it was personal. Those who knew both men understood that this was a delicate dance of influence, loyalty, and perception. Gotti's public persona, confident, authoritative, and unshakable, had to mask the nuanced negotiations happening behind closed doors. Glorilla's emergence added a new layer to this complex dynamic. Her talent was undeniable, her energy infectious, and her timing impeccable. To the public, she symbolized CMG's resurgence, a vibrant face for a label that had lost one of its most influential stars. But internally, Glorilla's rapid ascent introduced subtle tensions. Veteran members of the label, and even longtime supporters of Dolph, sometimes questioned whether her rise was too accelerated, whether it disrupted the organic growth that had been a hallmark of CMG's culture. In a world where respect and street credibility are currency, such questions were far from trivial. Yo Gotti managed these tensions with a mix of strategy and intuition. He ensured that Glorilla's rise felt authentic while subtly reinforcing the values Dolph had embodied. Public collaborations, strategic media placements, and carefully curated social media narratives all worked to craft a story of continuity. The new generation honoring the past while defining the future. Behind the scenes, however, negotiations over creative control, image management, and internal hierarchy were ongoing. These conversations, while private, reflected the delicate balancing act of leading a label that was simultaneously grieving, growing, and being watched by the entire industry. At the same time, the streets were watching. In Memphis, loyalty is paramount, and the shadow of Young Dolph looms large. Glorilla's success, while celebrated by many, was scrutinized for its authenticity. Fans debated whether CMG was truly moving forward as a unified front or whether the label was masking divisions that simmered beneath the surface. Every music video, interview, and Instagram post became a symbol, a potential flashpoint in a narrative that combined grief, ambition, and commerce. For Yo Gotti, managing these perceptions was as critical as managing the music itself. The business side of CMG was equally challenging. Dolph had been a stabilizing force in revenue streams, collaborations, and brand partnerships. His absence required restructuring, renegotiating deals, and re-evaluating the label's strategic direction. Glorilla's rise provided an opportunity to secure new partnerships, attract attention from major players, and diversify revenue streams. But these opportunities also carried pressure. Could the label sustain this momentum without losing touch with the culture that gave it its identity? Could Glorilla's star power complement, rather than overshadow, the legacy of Young Dolph? Within CMG's ranks, loyalty and hierarchy became even more significant. Artists and associates who had been close to Dolph expected a certain respect for his influence. At the same time, newcomers like Glorilla represented the future, a chance to expand CMG's reach beyond Memphis and into mainstream consciousness. Yo Gotti had to navigate these sometimes conflicting interests, rewarding loyalty, promoting talent, and ensuring the label's growth. It required careful communication, strategic delegation, and the ability to anticipate how fans, rivals, and the media would interpret every move. Rumors of internal friction persisted, but Gotti remained a master of controlling narrative. Interviews highlighted CMG's unity, social media amplified success stories, and collaborations showcased a seemingly harmonious roster. Yet beneath the surface, tension remained a constant companion. Decisions about who gets the spotlight, which songs are promoted, and how the legacy of Dolph is honored can create silent rivalries. For an empire built on street credibility and loyalty, these invisible lines are as powerful as any public feud. The complexity of CMG's current position can't be overstated. On one hand, Glorilla's rise represents renewal, vitality, and commercial success. On the other hand, Young Dolph's legacy is a powerful reminder of what CMG was built on: authenticity, loyalty, and influence that transcends charts. Yo Gotti is the bridge between these two realities, holding together a label that is simultaneously honoring the past and building the future. The challenge is not just creating hits, but sustaining a culture, managing perception, and navigating an emotional terrain shaped by loss, ambition, and the relentless eyes of the public. In the end, Yo Gotti's leadership during this period highlights a core truth about CMG. Strength isn't just measured in streams or record sales. It's measured in the ability to balance legacy with ambition, respect with growth, and loyalty with progress. Every decision he makes, every strategic move, and every interaction with artists like Glorilla sends a message. Not just about the label, but about how CMG intends to survive and thrive in the post-Young Dolph era. The question remains, though, can a label truly honor the past while fully embracing the future? CMG's story in this chapter is a testament to ambition, strategy, and resilience, but it is also a story marked by tension, unspoken rivalries, and the ever-present shadow of a legend who defined what it meant to be Memphis royalty. While CMG's internal dynamics unfolded behind closed doors, the streets and the fans were never far from the conversation. In Memphis, loyalty isn't just a word, it's a code, a currency that determines respect, influence, and credibility. Young Dolph had mastered that code, earning it through years of grind, authenticity, and connection to the people. His presence had set the tone for the city's music scene and for CMG itself. With his passing, a vacuum appeared, and the question that no one could ignore was whether CMG could fill it, not just commercially, but culturally and emotionally. Glorilla's rise complicated that narrative in ways that were both exciting and controversial. On one hand, her energy and talent were undeniable. She brought CMG national attention, viral hits, and a fresh perspective that seemed tailor-made for the digital age. On the other hand, some fans and insiders viewed her prominence as a symbol of a shift away from what CMG had once represented. Could a label built on Dolph Street credibility and authenticity remain true to its roots while elevating a new face so quickly? In the eyes of skeptics, Glorilla's success highlighted the tension between legacy and ambition, between honoring the past and chasing the future. Social media amplified every nuance. Fans dissected music videos, lyrics, and interviews, searching for signs of loyalty, alignment, or conflict. Every collaboration with Yo Gotti was analyzed for hidden messages. Every reference to Young Dolph's legacy was scrutinized for sincerity. Memes, hot takes, and debates circulated endlessly, painting CMG as both unstoppable and potentially divided. In this environment, perception became as critical as reality. For CMG, managing the narrative was not optional, it was essential for survival. Yo Gotti, aware of this scrutiny, operated with a calculated mix of visibility and subtlety. Publicly, he projected unity, celebrating Glorilla's success and reaffirming the label's respect for Dolph's legacy. Privately, he managed delicate negotiations, internal rivalries, and the expectations of longtime associates. Every decision was a balancing act: promote the new star without alienating the old guard, honor the past without hindering the future, and maintain authority while encouraging creativity and growth. It was a high-stakes chess game, and Gotti knew that one misstep could have ripple effects throughout the label and the city. Fans weren't the only ones watching. Rival labels and industry insiders kept a close eye on CMG, looking for signs of weakness or opportunity. In a business built on perception, the appearance of division could be exploited. But Gotti's ability to navigate these waters showcased not just business acumen, but a deep understanding of culture, loyalty, and influence. CMG's public success, sold-out tours, viral tracks, and media coverage masked the nuanced internal dynamics that defined the label behind the scenes. Yet, the emotional weight of Young Dolph's legacy was ever present. Artists and associates who had known him personally carried both pride and responsibility. Their loyalty to his memory often guided their decisions and shaped their interactions within the label. At the same time, the pressure to adapt to a changing industry and embrace new talent created subtle tensions. CMG was simultaneously a family, a business, and a brand, and balancing these identities was no small feat. Glorilla's role in this ecosystem cannot be overstated. She was more than an artist. She became a symbol of CMG's evolution. Her success offered a tangible proof point that the label could thrive after tragedy, but it also intensified scrutiny. Fans debated whether her rise represented genuine respect for Dolph's legacy or a strategic pivot designed to reframe CMG's public image. These conversations, while sometimes heated, underscored the complexity of CMG's position, a label at the intersection of mourning, ambition, and cultural influence. The streets of Memphis, too, weighed in. Conversations in studios, local events, and even casual encounters reflected a community grappling with change. Dolph's death had left a void that was felt on a personal level, and CMG's navigation of this void shaped public perception. Every release, every public statement, and every collaboration was read not just as music, but as commentary on loyalty, respect, and the future of Memphis hip-hop. Ultimately, CMG's story in this chapter is defined by dualities: unity and division, legacy and ambition, grief and opportunity. On one hand, the label continues to dominate charts, shape culture, and elevate new talent. On the other, the weight of the past, the shadow of Young Dolph, and the scrutiny of fans and rivals alike create pressures that are invisible but potent. The question of whether CMG is truly stronger or quietly divided remains open, and perhaps that uncertainty is exactly what makes this story so compelling. The truth is, CMG's strength cannot be measured solely in streams, sold-out shows, or viral moments. Its resilience lies in the delicate, sometimes invisible work of balancing loyalty, ambition, and legacy. Yo Gotti's leadership, Glorilla's rise, and the enduring presence of Young Dolph's memory converge to create a narrative that is as human as it is strategic, as emotional as it is commercial. And as Memphis continues to watch, CMG's next moves will determine whether the label emerges stronger, unified, and unstoppable, or whether the fractures beneath the surface will shape its story for years to come. Now that you've seen the full picture, from the shadows of Young Dolph's legacy to Glorilla's meteoric rise and Yo Gotti's calculated leadership, the question still lingers: what does the future hold for CMG? Will the label emerge stronger than ever, unified under a new generation of stars, or will the tensions, unspoken rivalries, and weight of the past quietly pull it apart? That's the story only time will tell, and fans like you are at the center of it all. If you've been following CMG's journey closely, you know that every track, every collaboration, and every public move carries more meaning than meets the eye. These aren't just songs, They're statements about loyalty, ambition, and the shifting power dynamics within one of hip-hop's most influential labels. And the truth is, CMG's evolution is far from over. There are stories behind the music, whispers in the streets, and insider dynamics that don't make headlines, but they shape the culture, influence fans, and define the label's future. So here's where you come in. Hit that like button if you're a fan of CMG or just fascinated by the drama, strategy, and culture that define Memphis hip-hop. Comment below with your take. Do you think CMG is stronger after Young Dolph, or are the cracks hidden just beneath the surface? Share your thoughts. Your opinion could spark the next conversation, debate, or even lead us to uncover more untold stories from inside the label. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the story isn't finished yet. New chapters are unfolding every day. New releases, rising stars, and behind-the-scenes drama that you won't hear anywhere else. By subscribing, you'll be the first to get the latest updates on CMG, Glorilla, Yo Gotti, and the legacy of Young Dolph, keeping you closer to the music, the culture, and the secrets that the mainstream media won't tell you. Lastly, if you really want the full CMG story, share this video with friends who love hip-hop, gossip, and the Memphis scene. Every view, every share, every comment helps keep the conversation alive and ensures that CMG's story, both its triumphs and its tensions, continues to be told the way it deserves. Because in a world where loyalty, ambition, and talent collide, only those paying attention will truly understand who CMG is, what it represents, and what it might become. The question remains, is CMG stronger or more divided after Young Dolph? Drop your thoughts, stay tuned, and let's see how this story unfolds together.